this is Faith at House Fraud Homestead. Apologies if you can hear a Roomba in the background. That is Jean-Luc Pickup. And I'm under a cat right now and cannot get up to relieve him of his duties to get the audio quality better. So apologies for that, but we will make do with circumstances as they occur. I'm on here today as usual, because something has fired me up about a particular topic and I want to discuss it. I was following a page that is about kind of the intersection between socialism and gardening. It's called the Resistance Garden. I don't identify as a socialist personally, but for ecologically minded homesteading content and memes, it's a good place to be. And one of the admin's posts was concerning, to paraphrase slightly, I don't know who needs to hear this, but part of building community means talking to your neighbors even if you don't like them. And given the nature of this page, I was kind of surprised at the comments on that post. As is the case in a lot of more left-leaning circles, there's of course the folks, very reasonably pointing out that in some cases it's not safe. If there's a bigoted neighborhood that you're in and you're of a demographic that's not welcome there, it can be a dangerous thing, and I totally get that. I'm not dismissing that, but also a good number of people expressed one of two other sentiments. One being, I'm not going to be the first to talk to them if they're not the first to talk to me, or some other sentiment to the effect of, they don't deserve my energy and my effort to connect with. And the other being, I'm introverted. I agree with the sentiment, but I have social anxiety and I don't know how to start. So this video that I'm about to make is targeting those last two groups, who think that the burden is not on them to build community, or they would like to take on more of that mantle but don't know where to start. And I'm saying this as having been on both sides of that, really. I was a self-proclaimed recluse and made it a large part of my identity for almost a decade. I was homeschooled, I did work from home, I was about as agoraphobic as you can get without a clinical diagnosis. And have, in the last probably 2 years, overcome that almost 100%. And what I'm trying to do in this video is kind of reverse engineer how I got from A to B to be someone who gets something out of community and doesn't feel threatened or drained or put off by it. And I've come up with a few things that I think help with that, because I do think as homemakers and homesteaders, especially, if not part of our duty, something that we have an opportunity to bring a lot of value to other people with is in having some bandwidth to build those community connections. And I think that's increasingly important in this world that's seeking to divide us by basis of class and identity and any other demographic insert identity here, to make us paint each other as these monoliths. And if we don't have this one thing in common, we have nothing in common, we can't connect, and that is how we lose resilience as a species and as localized communities. So I used to be very go-it-alone, independence-minded, agoraphobic, and have come to see the value in community. And I'm now at a point where we have neighbor groups, 6 houses strong, that get together once a month. I host most of them. And they're lovely, and I never expected this to be the case, but it's been a very healing experience for me to get to know our neighbors better and to overcome some of these limitations that I had been inadvertently perpetuating. And I'd like to kind of guide folks who are in a similar position out of that. And I'm still learning too. There's days when I don't feel like answering the door for sure, but I feel like I've come a long way, and I'm hoping I can impart some wisdom to folks in a similar position. So 3 things I think make a big difference if you are an introvert, a recluse, a homebody, and want community but don't know how to get there. First thing would be Identify something to give. And I know that's going to put some folks off, especially the folks who think that no one deserves their energy or attention if they haven't given them something first. Honestly, that's just something that one has to kind of get over. If you're going to be the change you want to see in the world, it has to start with you. But what I found with identifying something to give is it kind of gives you, as an insecure, introverted person, something to hide behind. So that's one function of it. And it also gives the other person something to latch onto. So some examples of this. When someone new moves into our neighborhood, I make muffins. I get kind of sick of making these muffins. They're a little bit high needs, but everyone who's had these muffins loves them. They are little donut mini muffins, are covered in sugar. They're easy. People enjoy receiving them. They're something that I feel confident giving to people that I don't know. And I think that's the key thing there is confidence. So if you are insecure about how someone's going to receive you as a whole person, then don't give them a whole person to receive. If you're a homemaker or homesteader, maybe you have some extra produce or some craft projects that you're confident in or some skill. Maybe you're a pet sitter. Something that you can offer strangers, people new to your community, with some confidence and not take it super duper personally if it's not well received. So, like, again, for me, that's muffins. It could even be more passive than that. Maybe you can be the house that hands out giant candy bars on Halloween, or has the cool Christmas decorations, or has a little free library. If you're farther gone than that, you could send homemade bookmarks in the mail and not even talk to anybody. There's a lot of different ways to identify something you have to offer and give it freely in this context. It can even be wearing some outfit, some conversation piece jewelry that makes you feel good about yourself and walking down the street and just receiving compliments. Like, there are so many ways to allow people to develop a positive association with you and with your property that don't involve fawning or grasping for attention or compliments. It's just identifying something that you have to give that makes you feel good to give and giving it freely. And then you kind of feel like you have a role and a job, and that can overcome a lot of the insecurity about, oh, I'm going to be bothering them, or they're going to be bothering me, or something like that. So I find that consumables are generally well received. In my case, and this is something I'm still working on, I get neurotic about, oh my gosh, they're going to have dietary restrictions and I'm going to poison them and that kind of thing. Something that's been lost, I think, in the art of community building is assuming positive reception and positive intent when you give a gift, and not overthinking it to the point where you don't give it at all. So if on the off chance I end up giving muffins to a gluten-free household or something like that, okay, that's an opportunity for me to learn something about them. It doesn't mean anything about me that I made that I assumed with generous intent and assumed incorrectly. So it kind of creates this buffer where being right or wrong doesn't mean something about you personally, but it gives you something to connect over. And from there, and this is something I struggled with too for a long time, you kind of have to identify something to gain from interacting with people around you. And if you're independent-minded and kind of a recluse, that's hard to do because you'd rather not deal with anybody, but there's often a lot to be gained from folks in proximity to you. And this doesn't have to be... I know I, for one, have gotten neurotic about taking more than is welcome, or asking too much, or being greedy, or something like that. And what I've come to learn is that people like to give. People like to feel useful and needed, especially by people close to them. So there's opportunities to receive without necessarily asking for anything. So for instance, maybe if you got a neighbor kid offering to mow lawns and shovel snow, you take them up on that, and then you meet their parents or something like that. Or If your older neighbor sees you struggling on the ladder and offers you a hand at the base, take them up on that. Say thank you. Maybe one of your neighbors has gorgeous flowers and you want to know where she got them, how she takes care of them. That's a conversation starter. There's often a lot to be gleaned and learned about people that is of benefits and doesn't require you to approve of their whole person. So, something I see a lot of in these conversations is because this person looks this way and acts this way, I project that they have all these other political affiliations and identities and motivations and thus behaviors that I don't agree with, and I'm not even going to give them the time of day. And this is where you have an opportunity to look for what you have in common with somebody and what they can do for you without needing them to be different than who they are. Maybe that guy who's a little bit too conservative for your taste has tools that you don't have and can, save you a trip to the store to build your chicken coop or whatever. This is something I think has been lost to my generation especially. We don't really offer each other as many things as we used to. Like, if I hang out with a lot of boomers. I'm in a square dance club. A lot of our neighbors are of that demographic. I was raised by that demographic, and that's something I notice as a discrepancy between millennials and older generations is we're much slower as millennials to offer even like a friendly wave or a smile. The effort needed to break the ice is much greater when you're not receptive. So it might be that, I think it's easier to project someone disapproving of you when you're not looking for the ways in which they are trying to extend an olive branch, like with a smile or a wave or something like that, or just a friendly little, like, howdy neighbor over the fence. All of those go a long way toward building familiarity and camaraderie without needing to identify with everything that they are espousing. And then from there, those are two key ingredients, I think, to forming some kind of connection, where you've offered something that is potentially of value to them and gives you something to hide behind, and you also have something of interest to you in them that you can inquire after and just be curious about. And from there, once you have that point of connection established, I think it's worth identifying something to grow. And for our neighborhood, that has looked like monthly neighbor nights where we're always kind of setting up the next thing. And it doesn't have to be as big as that if you don't want to host, if you don't want to have an ongoing thing where 6 people are at your house once a month, or 6 households rather. It can be something like, hey, I have this book that might be of interest to you, and then maybe they'll lend you a book back. Just kind of keep something hanging, something to look forward to, something that's not quite square. And as someone with a lot of debt trauma, that freaked me out for the longest time. That if I'm sitting on a book that someone lent me, oh my god, I'm in this transactional debt, please release me from this hell. And it really doesn't have to be that way. So, like, if someone offers you zucchini from their garden or something like that, it doesn't have to be this hellish thing that you're in debt to them and now you owe them something. It's an opportunity to reciprocate from a place of joy and generosity in ways that feel good to you to do. So maybe you bring back their casserole dish full with another pie or something like that. There's a lot of wisdom in the ways that we used to interact with each other and the etiquette of exchange that I think we've lost in later generations when we all live on the internet and don't really meet each other in person. So there's little ways to just say thank you with more stuff that gives you more to talk about. Food is a great way to do that, I've found. But yeah, there's another thing I like to do is exchange numbers, if at all possible. Like, once you've identified that that commonality or that similar interest or even a shared goal. Like our neighbor groups first started because we had a wildfire scare, and I happened to have one neighbor's number and said, "Hey, would you want to exchange keys so that if either of us isn't home, we can get the animals out?" And then that turned into, okay, let's get together and exchange keys and, have some drinks and some food while we do that. And it turned into this lovely, mutually fulfilling evening that didn't cost money and didn't require us to drive anywhere. We just got to know people close to us. And we've just kept that up for going on a year now. And that's lovely if you can pull it off. If you have like a fire pit or something that doesn't get enough use, maybe you just start grilling and like wave at people on the streets. Come by, have a hot dog, something like that. You can put flyers in the mailbox. You can do a garage sale. I'd love to do a little free library. We're not quite there yet. But I think there's importance to keeping that relationship growing and moving and developing and not just have it be total one-offs. So maybe it's, hey, I got extra eggs, would you like some more? You just continue building on that foundation that you've established. Or, I've got extra plant cuttings, would you like some? Keep that... It's like anything else, we homestead and we homemake. We know that growing things require tending. So I think the tending is important. And there's various ways to do that don't have to stress you out and put you out. It doesn't have to be hosting. It could be sending a Christmas card, or like even just a text alert like, hey, someone was coming through checking car doors, watch out, that kind of thing. It's just a way of looking out for each other and affirming that bond. And it really goes a long way to helping you feel safe and cared for in your community. Even if someone doesn't know your whole everything about you, there's a lot of healing that comes from allowing like a part of you that you're somewhat confident in to be well received and to well receive something else about someone, and let that develop organically rather than leading with what you have that's not in common and letting that be a limiting factor. So that's my soapbox. I hope that was helpful. I've gotten kind of heated up about this one, but I hope that I'm proof positive that you don't have to be limited by social anxiety or introversion or any identifier that puts you on the defensive, and that a lot of good comes from building community, and it's well worth investing time and energy and growth into. So that's it for me today. Hope this helps somebody, and talk to you next time. Go meet your neighbors.